Have you ever reached into your pocket, pulled out a single penny, and tossed it into a jar without giving it a second thought? What if that ordinary-looking coin wasn't ordinary at all? What if one tiny detail hidden on a 1979 VDB Lincoln Cent could mean the difference between 1 cent and a life-changing payday? Somewhere in America, one of these pennies could still be hiding inside a forgotten coffee can, an old piggy bank, a dusty coin album, or even in the change you receive at the grocery store today. Before you spend another penny, stay with me, because what you're about to discover has surprised collectors for decades. The year was 1979. America was facing economic uncertainty, inflation was making headlines, and millions of Lincoln cents rolled out of the Denver Mint carrying the familiar D Mint mark beneath the date. Most of them entered circulation and lived ordinary lives, passing from one pocket to another without anyone paying attention. But among those countless coins, a tiny number emerged with characteristics that transformed them from everyday currency into objects of fascination for serious collectors. At first glance, every 1979 VDB Lincoln Cent appears nearly identical. Abraham Lincoln faces to the right, while the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly on the reverse. Yet experienced collectors know that the smallest imperfections can create extraordinary value. That's where the real treasure hunt begins. Imagine discovering that the penny you've ignored for years has an unusual strike, an off-center design, a dramatic die crack, or a rare doubled feature that instantly separates it from millions of ordinary examples. Suddenly, a coin worth 1 cent becomes something people compete to own. Now here's the question that catches almost everyone off guard. When was the last time you actually looked at the pennies in your house? Not counted them, actually examined them. Most people never do. And that's exactly why remarkable discoveries continue happening today. Some collectors spend years searching through rolls of pennies from banks. Others inherit jars filled by grandparents decades ago. Every now and then, someone notices a tiny detail that everyone else overlooked, and that moment changes everything. Of course, condition plays an enormous role. A coin preserved with sharp details, original luster, and minimal wear can command dramatically higher prices than one that's been circulating for decades. Professional grading services evaluate every tiny characteristic, from the quality of the strike to the preservation of the surfaces, and those differences often separate common coins from elite collectibles. Here's where the story becomes even more fascinating. Not every valuable coin leaves the mint looking perfect. In fact, some of the most desirable pieces became famous precisely because something unexpected happened during production. Collectors eagerly search for dramatic die errors, doubled dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and other unusual minting varieties that make each coin unique. Think about that for a second. The mistake that once would have gone unnoticed is now exactly what makes collectors excited. Sometimes perfection isn't the goal. Sometimes the error is the treasure. And that's why experienced collectors inspect every letter, every number, every edge, and every detail under magnification. Now imagine opening an old cookie tin filled with pennies collected over 40 years ago. You begin sorting through them one by one. Most are ordinary. Then suddenly you spot the date, 1979. Just below it sits the tiny D Mint mark. Your heart starts racing. Could this be the one? That's the feeling that keeps collectors searching year after year. Stories like these continue inspiring new generations of treasure hunters because remarkable discoveries often happen in the most unexpected places. Estate sales, inherited collections, forgotten dresser drawers, garage sales, abandoned piggy banks, and even loose change have all produced astonishing finds. But here's something many beginners never realize. Cleaning a coin can dramatically reduce its collectible appeal. It sounds harmless. After all, who doesn't want a shiny penny? Yet experienced numismatists understand that original surfaces tell the story of a coin's history. Harsh cleaning can leave scratches and remove the natural appearance collectors value most. Ironically, that dull-looking penny could be worth far more than the polished one sitting beside it. Funny, isn't it? The one time in life when being spotless isn't always an advantage. Now let's talk about the possibility everyone dreams about. Extraordinary auction results have captured headlines because exceptional Lincoln cents with significant rarity, outstanding preservation, or remarkable mint errors have attracted fierce competition among serious collectors. Whenever two determined bidders refuse to back down, prices can climb far beyond what anyone expected. That's why headlines mentioning values approaching hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even extraordinary figures like $979,000 for an exceptional example with remarkable qualities, capture so much attention. Those prices are associated with extremely rare, authenticated, top-tier specimens rather than ordinary circulated 1979 D cents. The overwhelming majority of these coins are worth only face value or modest collector premiums, but the rare exceptions are what keep collectors searching. And that's exactly what makes this hobby so exciting. You never truly know what you're holding until you look closely. Think about how many millions of pennies quietly circulate every single day. How many rest inside jars forgotten in closets? How many sit untouched inside inherited collections? How many are waiting for someone curious enough to inspect them before spending them? Every one of those questions carries a sense of possibility. Every unopened coin roll represents another chance. Every forgotten penny has a story. Perhaps that's why Lincoln cents remain among America's most beloved collectibles. They connect history, craftsmanship, mystery, and hope in a way few other objects can. A single coin has traveled through countless hands, witnessed decades of American life, and survived long enough to reach yours. And now it's asking one simple question. Will you notice me? The most successful collectors aren't necessarily the wealthiest. They're the most patient. They study, compare, verify, and learn from every coin they examine. They understand that genuine discoveries are built on knowledge rather than luck. So before you spend another handful of pennies, slow down for just a moment. Look at the dates. Check for the mint mark. Examine the lettering. Search for unusual doubling, striking errors, or anything that appears different from the rest. Because history has proven something remarkable. Treasures are rarely announced with flashing lights. They often hide in plain sight. The next time a cashier hands you a few pennies, don't dismiss them as pocket change. One careful glance could reveal something overlooked by hundreds of people before you. That forgotten 1979 D Lincoln Cent may simply be another ordinary coin, or it could be the beginning of an unforgettable story. After all, fortunes have always favored those willing to look where everyone else refuses. And somewhere, perhaps closer than anyone realizes, another remarkable Lincoln Cent is still waiting to be discovered before it disappears into circulation once again, leaving only one final question hanging in the air. What if the next penny you hold is the one everyone else missed? Have you ever dropped a penny into a jar without a second thought? What if that ordinary-looking coin was quietly hiding a value that could change your financial future? Somewhere in America, tucked inside a forgotten coffee can, buried in an old dresser drawer, or mixed into pocket change, there may still be a 1986 Lincoln 1-cent penny without a mint mark that collectors are desperately searching for. Most people see 1-cent, experienced collectors see possibility. And the difference between those two perspectives can sometimes be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The story begins in Philadelphia during 1986, where millions of Lincoln cents were struck without a mint mark, just as Philadelphia pennies traditionally were at the time. Most entered circulation unnoticed, passing from one hand to another, buying candy, newspapers, and cups of coffee. Decades later, those same coins have become the focus of serious collectors looking for the rare examples that escaped the mint with extraordinary characteristics. Here's where things become fascinating. Not every 1986 no-mint mark penny is valuable. In fact, most are worth only face value. But a tiny number possess remarkable qualities that transform them from everyday pocket change into coins capable of commanding astonishing prices at major auctions. That's why experts never judge a penny simply by its date. They study every detail. Before you dismiss the pennies sitting in your own home, ask yourself one question. When was the last time you actually looked at them? Now imagine finding one coin that everyone else overlooked. The excitement isn't about luck alone. It's about knowing exactly what to look for. Collectors begin with the coin's condition. A 1986 Lincoln Cent that has never circulated, retaining its original bright luster and sharp details, immediately attracts attention. Every tiny scratch matters. Every fingerprint can reduce value. A flawless surface preserved for nearly 4 decades is already something extraordinary. But condition is only the beginning. The real treasure hunt starts with minting errors. One of the most desirable discoveries is a dramatic double die. On these rare coins, parts of the lettering, date, or Lincoln's portrait appear doubled because of a mistake during die production. Under magnification, the doubling becomes unmistakable. It's one of those moments that makes collectors' hearts race. Then there are off-center strikes where the design failed to align correctly during minting. Depending on how dramatic the error is and whether the full date remains visible, these coins can command significant premiums. Broad strikes without a retaining collar create another fascinating variety, leaving the coins slightly larger than normal with distorted edges. Die cracks, cut errors, clipped planchets, and other striking anomalies all add another layer to the mystery. Think about it this way. If millions of identical pennies leave the mint every year, which one would collectors remember? The perfect one, or the one that shouldn't exist in the first place? Exactly. The mistakes often become the masterpieces. Now here's something many people never realize. Some valuable coins don't look spectacular at first glance. In fact, they can appear surprisingly ordinary until examined under proper lighting and magnification. That's why experienced collectors recommend never cleaning an old coin. It sounds harmless, but cleaning removes the original surface collectors prize the most. Ironically, trying to make a valuable penny look prettier can instantly destroy much of its value. Imagine polishing away thousands of dollars with one swipe of a cloth. Not exactly the kind of home improvement project anyone wants. As interest in rare coins continues to grow, competition among collectors has intensified. Registry sets, investment portfolios, and historical collections all create demand for the finest certified examples. When several determined buyers compete for an exceptionally preserved 1986 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent with a major mint error, bidding can escalate dramatically. Stories like these inspire treasure hunters across the country. Someone inherits an old coin album. Someone discovers a forgotten jar in the attic. Someone empties a family piggy bank that hasn't been touched since the 1980s. Most people expect spare change. Occasionally, history has something much more exciting in mind. That possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching year after year. Now let's talk about one of the biggest misconceptions surrounding valuable pennies. Many people assume age alone creates value. Not true. Others believe every old coin is automatically worth a fortune. Also not true. The combination of rarity, preservation, collector demand, certification, and unique mint characteristics determines whether a coin becomes ordinary or extraordinary. That's why authentication plays such an important role. Professional grading services examine every microscopic detail, confirming authenticity while assigning a condition grade recognized throughout the collecting world. A high-grade certified example can command dramatically stronger prices than an uncertified coin with similar appearance. And here's where the excitement reaches another level. Imagine opening a small package from a grading service. Inside sits your penny, encased forever in protective plastic. The label confirms a rare variety. The grade exceeds your expectations. Suddenly, the coin you almost spent years ago has become one of the finest known examples. That moment changes everything. Of course, extraordinary stories also create extraordinary claims. You may hear headlines suggesting a 1986 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent is worth as much as $986,000. Such figures generally represent exceptional, highly unusual coins with extraordinary characteristics, elite condition, or unique provenance rather than typical examples. The vast majority of 1986 pennies are worth only modest amounts, while only the rarest certified error coins reach significant values. That's why careful evaluation is so important before assuming any coin is a jackpot. Still, the dream remains alive because remarkable discoveries continue to happen. Hidden collections are uncovered. Forgotten albums reappear. Estate sales reveal untouched treasures. Every discovery reminds us that history doesn't always stay inside museums. Sometimes it hides inside your own home. So before you ignore another handful of pennies, slow down for just a moment. Check the date. Look carefully for the missing mint mark beneath the date's usual location for Philadelphia coins of that era. Examine Lincoln's portrait. Study the lettering. Search for doubling. Inspect the rim. Look for unusual shapes, striking errors, or exceptional brilliance. You never know which tiny detail could separate an ordinary cent from a collector's prize. After all, fortunes have started with much less than 1 penny. The next life-changing discovery won't announce itself with flashing lights. It won't arrive wrapped in velvet or displayed behind museum glass. It may be sitting quietly in your pocket right now, waiting for someone curious enough to notice what everyone else missed. History rewards careful eyes. Knowledge rewards patient collectors. Opportunity rewards those willing to look before they spend. And perhaps the greatest lesson hidden inside the humble 1986 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny isn't simply about money. It's the reminder that extraordinary value often hides inside the most ordinary places. While millions continue to overlook these small copper treasures every single day, a handful of observant collectors continue finding pieces of American history that others unknowingly pass by. The next remarkable discovery could belong to anyone, including you. So the next time a penny lands in your hand, don't be so quick to spend it. Take one more look, because that single moment of curiosity could become the beginning of the most valuable treasure hunt of your life. Have you ever tossed a 1991 Lincoln penny into a jar without giving it a second thought? What if that tiny copper-colored coin sitting in your kitchen drawer, your old piggy bank, or a forgotten coffee can in the garage was far more important than you ever imagined? Every year, millions of Americans unknowingly spend old coins that collectors have been searching for. Somewhere, someone is cashing in rare treasures while someone else is buying a cup of coffee with history. The question is simple. Which person are you going to be? The 1991 Lincoln 1-cent with no mint mark is one of those coins that deserves a closer look. At first glance, it appears completely ordinary. Abraham Lincoln looks the same. The Lincoln Memorial stands proudly on the reverse. Nothing seems unusual. That ordinary appearance is exactly what makes this story so fascinating. Sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones hiding in plain sight. Before you start imagining instant riches, remember that not every 1991 penny is valuable. But certain examples with exceptional preservation or significant minting errors have captured the attention of serious collectors. And those are the coins that can transform an everyday cent into something extraordinary. That's why experienced numismatists never judge a coin by its face value alone. Think about this for a moment. How many pennies have passed through your hands over the years? Hundreds? Thousands? Maybe tens of thousands. Now imagine discovering that one of them deserved a second look before it disappeared forever. That thought alone is enough to make anyone slow down before emptying the change jar. The Philadelphia Mint produced these pennies without a mint mark, creating billions of coins during 1991. Most entered circulation immediately, living hard lives in cash registers, wallets, vending machines, and countless pockets across America. Every scratch, every nick, every year of circulation reduced the number of pristine survivors. Today, finding one in spectacular condition is far more difficult than many people realize. Here's something surprising. Collectors are not simply buying old coins. They're buying rarity, quality, and stories. A common penny in worn condition remains common. But a coin preserved almost perfectly for decades becomes a completely different story. Suddenly, supply becomes incredibly limited while demand continues to grow. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at the pennies in your pocket instead of spending them? Most people laugh at the idea. Then they hear about remarkable auction results involving rare coins, and suddenly that laughter disappears. The world of coin collecting has produced astonishing sales for genuinely rare and exceptional coins. While sensational headlines often exaggerate values, truly outstanding examples with remarkable characteristics have earned extraordinary prices because collectors compete fiercely for the very best. That's the difference between spending a penny and studying one. The excitement grows when minting errors enter the picture. During production, even the most advanced equipment isn't perfect. Occasionally, something unexpected happens. Off-center strikes, doubled details, die cracks, clipped planchets, dramatic die breaks, or other unusual mint errors can transform an otherwise ordinary coin into a collector's prize. These mistakes weren't supposed to happen, and that's exactly why collectors chase them. Imagine opening an old family coin collection passed down through generations. At first, it looks like nothing more than loose change. Then you notice one coin with unusually sharp details. Another appears brighter than the rest. One shows strange lettering that doesn't quite look right. Suddenly, what began as an afternoon of cleaning becomes an unforgettable treasure hunt. This is where patience becomes more valuable than luck. Successful collectors don't rush. They examine every date, every letter, every edge, and every tiny detail under proper lighting. Sometimes the smallest difference creates the biggest opportunity. Here's a funny thought. We spend more time comparing prices on television sets than checking the coins already sitting in our homes. Isn't that backward? The next time someone says pennies aren't worth anything, just smile. They might be walking right past a collectible without even realizing it. Condition remains one of the biggest factors affecting value. Coins showing brilliant original luster, crisp design details, and minimal contact marks naturally attract greater attention. Professional grading services evaluate these qualities carefully, providing confidence to buyers and sellers alike. An ordinary circulated coin and an exceptional mint state example can occupy completely different worlds in the collector market. And here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Every year, old collections resurface from estates, forgotten safes, abandoned storage units, and dusty attic boxes. Families often have no idea what they're holding. Some collections contain only common coins. Others reveal astonishing surprises that remained hidden for decades. Nobody knows where the next remarkable discovery will appear. That uncertainty keeps collectors searching, keeps dealers examining every purchase. It keeps treasure hunters checking pocket change one coin at a time. The next incredible find could come from anywhere. Some online stories claim certain 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln cents are worth hundreds of thousands or even more. Those headlines create enormous excitement, but it's important to separate extraordinary claims from verified sales. Exceptional values, when they occur, depend on rare combinations of outstanding preservation, authentication, significant mint errors, and intense collector demand. Careful verification always matters before believing sensational numbers. Still, imagine the feeling of discovering that your ordinary-looking penny deserves professional examination. That single moment of curiosity could change the entire story of that coin. Instead of disappearing into circulation forever, it becomes part of collecting history. If you believe you found an unusual example, resist the temptation to clean it. Cleaning almost always reduces collector appeal because it alters the original surface. Store the coin safely, handle it only by the edges, and consider having it evaluated by experienced professionals who understand rare Lincoln cents. Every great treasure story begins with someone who decided to look a little closer than everyone else. They noticed what others ignored. They asked questions others never considered. They understood that history doesn't always arrive wrapped in gold. Sometimes it arrives disguised as a single penny. So before another handful of change disappears into a vending machine, before another forgotten coin jar gets rolled into paper wrappers, take one more look. That humble 1991 Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark may simply be another ordinary penny. Or it may hold the kind of rarity that collectors dream about finding. The next chapter of this story hasn't been written yet. It could already be waiting inside your home, tucked into an old dresser drawer, hidden beneath years of forgotten change, quietly waiting for someone curious enough to notice. And if history has taught collectors anything, it's that remarkable discoveries almost always begin with one simple decision. Look before you spend. Have you ever looked at a single penny and wondered if it could quietly be worth more than a luxury home? It sounds impossible, but that tiny copper-colored coin sitting in a forgotten jar could deserve a second look before you spend it without thinking. The 2000 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark has become one of the most talked about modern pennies among collectors. Not because every coin is valuable, but because a handful with extraordinary characteristics have shocked the collecting world. And before you assume yours is just another ordinary cent, stay with me, because one small detail could make all the difference. Every year, millions of Americans toss pennies into cups, drawers, glove compartments, and piggy banks. Most never imagine those forgotten coins could attract serious collector interest. Yet history has shown that the rarest treasures are often discovered where nobody expected to find them. That is exactly why experienced collectors never ignore a coin simply because it looks common. The year 2000 marked the beginning of a new millennium. It was a symbolic moment in American history, and the United States Mint produced enormous numbers of Lincoln cents to meet public demand. Most of those coins entered circulation and continue to pass from hand to hand today. On the surface, there seems to be nothing extraordinary about them. But appearances have fooled people before. While millions of ordinary examples exist, collectors are always searching for exceptional coins with dramatic minting errors, unusual die varieties, pristine condition, or striking visual differences that separate them from the rest. These are the coins that ignite bidding wars and make headlines inside the numismatic community. Now here comes the question that could save you from making an expensive mistake. What if you already own one? Before you laugh and say, "If I had a valuable penny, I would already know." Remember that many remarkable discoveries happened because someone simply decided to look more carefully than everyone else. The first thing collectors notice is the missing mint mark. For Lincoln cents struck in Philadelphia during the year 2000, no mint mark is completely normal. That alone does not make the coin rare. The real excitement begins when that no mint mark penny also displays something unusual that experts recognize as genuinely collectible. Condition becomes incredibly important. Imagine two identical pennies minted on the same day. One spends years bouncing around pockets and cash registers until every detail becomes worn away. The other somehow remains untouched, preserving brilliant original surfaces that look almost brand new decades later. Although they started life together, their values can end up worlds apart. Now add a significant mint error into that equation. Suddenly, an ordinary coin transforms into something collectors may compete fiercely to own. Think about that for just a second. The difference between spending 1 cent and discovering a highly collectible coin can sometimes be smaller than the width of a fingerprint. Sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? That's exactly why professional coin graders spend countless hours examining tiny details invisible to the average person. Collectors often inspect Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, the date, the reverse design, and the edges under magnification. They search for doubled images, dramatic strikes, off-center impressions, broad strikes, die cracks, retained cuds, and other authentic mint-produced abnormalities. These features cannot simply be guessed. They must be verified carefully because genuine mint errors are what serious buyers pursue. And here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Every time a rare example surfaces, thousands of people suddenly rush to check their own change jars. For a few weeks, kitchen tables across America become miniature treasure hunting stations as families examine decades of forgotten coins. Maybe you've done exactly that. Maybe you've poured out a coffee can full of pennies thinking, "There's no chance." Then halfway through the pile, your heartbeat speeds up. The date says 2000. There's no mint mark. And suddenly you're asking yourself whether you've overlooked something valuable for years. That feeling of possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching. Of course, excitement should always be balanced with careful verification. Extraordinary values are generally associated with exceptionally rare combinations of authentic mint errors, outstanding preservation, and professional certification. Those are the coins capable of commanding astonishing attention whenever they appear on the market. Stories of remarkable auction prices spread quickly because they remind people that rarity often hides in plain sight. While reports occasionally circulate claiming extraordinary examples have reached values approaching $921,000, those figures apply only to exceptional, highly specialized collector pieces under extraordinary circumstances, not typical circulated 2000 pennies. The overwhelming majority remain worth face value or only a modest premium. That distinction matters, because believing every old penny is worth a fortune can lead to disappointment. But believing none of them are worth examining could cause you to overlook something genuinely special. There is a huge difference between skepticism and curiosity. The smartest collectors choose curiosity. They educate themselves. They compare details. They learn how genuine mint errors differ from ordinary damage caused after the coin leaves the mint. They understand why professional authentication plays such an important role before assigning extraordinary values. Here's a funny thought. How many people carefully inspect every receipt for discounts but never bother checking the coins they receive as change? Sometimes we spend more time hunting for a coupon than looking for history hiding in our own pockets. That tiny habit could be costing someone an unforgettable discovery. The fascination surrounding the 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent isn't really about becoming rich overnight. It's about possibility. It's about realizing that ordinary objects can carry extraordinary stories. Every scratch, every strike, every preserved detail reflects a moment inside the United States Mint over 2 decades ago. Some coins become souvenirs. Some become family heirlooms. And a tiny number become legendary collector prizes. No one knows exactly where the next remarkable discovery will happen. It could be sitting inside an inherited collection. Could be mixed into a roll from the local bank. Could be resting quietly inside a forgotten drawer that hasn't been opened in years. The next time you receive change, don't let that penny disappear without a second glance. Slow down. Look closely. Compare the details. Learn what separates ordinary coins from exceptional ones. Because the greatest treasure hunters aren't always searching with metal detectors on distant beaches. Sometimes they're standing in their own kitchen, holding a single penny beneath a light, wondering whether today is the day an ordinary coin tells an extraordinary story. And if that moment ever arrives for you, you'll be grateful you chose curiosity instead of assumption. Because history has a remarkable way of rewarding the people who pay attention. Have you ever tossed a handful of pennies into a jar without a second thought? Imagine discovering that one of those ordinary-looking coins could be the difference between loose change and a life-changing payday. It sounds unbelievable, yet stories of rare Lincoln cents selling for astonishing prices have fueled one of America's biggest modern treasure hunts. And among the coins that collectors inspect with growing excitement is the 2006 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark. Before you assume yours is just another penny, stay with me, because one tiny detail could completely change the story. Every day, millions of Americans handle pennies without ever looking twice. They slide across checkout counters, disappear into cup holders, and collect dust inside forgotten piggy banks. Most are worth exactly 1 cent. But history has taught collectors an unforgettable lesson. Sometimes the rarest treasures hide in plain sight. The 2006 Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark was produced for circulation at the Philadelphia Mint, where modern pennies typically do not carry a mint mark. That alone does not make every example rare. But this is exactly where the mystery begins. While millions were struck, only a tiny fraction attract serious collector attention because of exceptional preservation or unusual minting errors that separate them from ordinary pocket change. Now imagine opening an old coin jar inherited from a family member. You pour the pennies onto the kitchen table, expecting nothing more than spare change. Then one coin catches the light just a little differently. Would you know what you're looking at? Or would that potential treasure end up back in circulation tomorrow? Here's something fascinating. Collectors don't simply chase old coins. They chase stories. They chase mistakes. They chase the impossible combination of rarity, condition, and demand. That's why experienced collectors inspect every letter, every number, and every surface under magnification. Before we go any further, ask yourself one question. When was the last time you actually looked at the pennies in your wallet? If your answer is never, you're definitely not alone. The Lincoln cent has become far more than everyday currency. Since Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the penny in 1909, generations of Americans have carried a small piece of history in their pockets. Every scratch tells a story. Every worn edge hints at decades of travel through cash registers, coffee shops, and family businesses across the country. But every once in a while, a coin escapes heavy circulation. It remains remarkably sharp, with bright original color and almost flawless surfaces. Collectors call these high-grade examples, and they can command dramatically higher prices than ordinary circulated coins. Then there are the minting errors. This is where excitement really begins. A dramatic off-center strike, a doubled design, a broad strike, a die crack that creates a unique appearance. Sometimes a subtle error invisible to most people becomes the very feature collectors are willing to compete for. Suddenly, a coin that once bought almost nothing becomes the center of an intense auction battle. And here's the funny part. Somewhere, someone is probably using a potentially collectible penny to pay for chewing gum right now. That thought alone is enough to make any coin enthusiast smile. But don't rush to celebrate just yet. Not every unusual-looking penny is valuable. Damage from circulation, environmental exposure, or everyday accidents can easily be mistaken for genuine mint errors. Learning the difference is what separates successful collectors from disappointed dreamers. This is why careful inspection matters. Examine the date. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait. Check the lettering around the edge. Study both sides under proper lighting. Compare anything unusual with verified examples before making assumptions. Now imagine discovering that your coin appears almost perfect. The surfaces remain brilliant. The details are razor sharp. The strike looks exceptionally strong. Your heart starts racing. Could this really be different? Could this be the coin everyone else overlooked? That uncertainty is exactly what keeps collectors searching year after year. Professional grading has transformed the rare coin market because independent experts evaluate authenticity, preservation, and overall quality. Higher grades often attract significantly stronger collector interest than similar coins showing ordinary wear. The difference can be astonishing. Auction rooms have repeatedly demonstrated that exceptional coins inspire extraordinary competition. When multiple determined collectors pursue the same elusive example, prices can rise far beyond what casual observers expect. That excitement is driven by rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand, not by the date alone. Think about that for a moment. The same year, the same design, the same denomination, yet one coin may remain ordinary while another becomes the centerpiece of an advanced collection because of qualities almost invisible to the untrained eye. That's why patience is one of the greatest tools any collector possesses. Here's another question. If someone handed you 100 2006 pennies, would you know which one deserved a closer look? Most people wouldn't. That's precisely why opportunities continue to exist. Collectors often describe coin hunting as modern treasure hunting because discoveries can happen almost anywhere. Old coffee cans in the garage, forgotten dresser drawers, estate sales, bank rolls, family collections untouched for decades. Every location carries the possibility of an exciting surprise. Of course, excitement should always be balanced with realistic expectations. Most 2006 no-mint mark Lincoln cents found in circulation are common and worth face value. Only coins with exceptional characteristics, such as outstanding condition or significant, verified mint errors, typically attract substantial premiums in the collector market. And that's where the real adventure begins. Knowledge becomes your greatest advantage. Instead of guessing, you start recognizing. Instead of overlooking details, you begin spotting them immediately. Instead of wondering whether every penny is valuable, you understand exactly why a select few stand apart. Imagine the confidence that brings. The next time someone empties loose change onto a counter, you'll see possibilities instead of ordinary coins. You'll notice details others completely ignore. You'll ask questions others never think to ask. And one day, that curiosity might reward you with an unforgettable discovery. The remarkable thing about collecting isn't simply the money. It's the thrill of knowing that history still circulates through everyday life. Hidden among billions of ordinary coins are a handful of extraordinary survivors waiting for someone observant enough to recognize them. So before another handful of pennies disappears into a jar, take one extra minute. Look carefully. Turn each coin over. Study every detail. Because history has repeatedly shown that incredible discoveries rarely announce themselves. They quietly wait for someone willing to pay attention. And perhaps, sitting unnoticed in your own home at this very moment, is a humble Lincoln Cent that's about to tell a story no one expected.